Well, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Here we are on February the 15th. I'm wearing my only reddish color shirt. Natalia, you saw it in class last night?
I haven't changed since yesterday too. I'm wearing my shirt.
I thought, we're going to stay with the theme of love since this is the week that humanity picks to celebrate love. So we will stay with the theme of love. That was a great class last night.
Yes, it was awesome.
It's just amazing when people come together to really look at what our ego does to us. And I see Sarah. Sarah, thank you for joining us. If you don't mind just letting us know where you're from and how you heard from us. If you want to stay off camera, that's perfectly okay. A lot of people do that. Or if you want to send me a message in the chat, that's perfectly okay as well. We don't ever want anybody to be uncomfortable, especially when this is it's a public format, because I do post these things. So these conversations, I believe this one will be 92, maybe 93, I can't remember. So for a couple of years now, over 2 years, I have been doing these conversations, and what they really are I call them transmissions. I have been inspired by the Christ consciousness, my own access to the Christ consciousness that all of us can access, to share the deeper parts of A Course in Miracles. Not really the deeper parts. The Course in Miracles is very deep as it is, but to interpret, to offer what it means and how to put what the Course teaches into practical application in our everyday lives. There is no point in having spirituality in our head. Yes, that is nice. It makes people, I know I did when I had spirituality in my head, it makes us a little nicer, but it also makes us kind of pains in the butt, because then we think we know it all, and everything is about, my crystal said this, my astrologer said that, my yoga teacher said this, I wear the yoga pants, and it can get really heady. There used to be in YouTube, it might still be there. I haven't looked at it probably in over a decade, but there was a channel that said shit spiritual girls say. And it was really funny because it was, I remember being in a stage where I had spirituality in my head. But the problem with spirituality in the head is that it gives us permission to not get involved in the world. It makes us want to leave this crazy world, ascend to the higher realms. But Course in Miracles is about how to make the spirituality practical so that we can embody the love that we are, so that we can operate as spirit in the world, just not of it. Sarah, so good to see you there. How did you hear about us?
I'm doing the Course in Miracles, and I found you, so I've been following you every day. Your videos, and the reason I follow you every day is because exactly from what you said, it's real. I mean, it's concrete for me.
Oh, good. I'm so glad to hear that. That's my only desire. When I was inspired to become a teacher of A Course in Miracles, probably, I want to say 2013, 14 is when I started teaching it. So almost 10 years now. I knew that I was going to teach the course for the rest of my life, because I am a student of the course, and I will be for the rest of my life. I read the course or other books written by Jesus as follow-ups to the course just about every day of my life. Rarely does a day go by that I don't open it up and at least pick up a nugget, pick up a sentence, pick up a heading that helps reset me to the clarity that I know I want to live from. So for me, I made a decision back in, I want to say 2012, where I was only going to follow the teachings of God, and I was not going to tolerate my ego shenanigans anymore, because my ego is the one that always pulls me into judgment, into righteousness, into all kinds of, even in the spiritual circles, into thinking that I know more than anybody else. And I don't know more than anybody else. I only want to know what God wants me to know. And it's usually very little at any one given point. So I can't know it all, but I have access to the one who does know it all. My little doggy is over here wanting to say hello. So today, and we'll probably have a few more people. They tend to trickle in as the transmission goes on. So I am going to go ahead and mute you, Sarah, and because it's like a stream of consciousness that flows through me. And then at the end, I'll definitely ask for anybody who has anything that you might want to share, want to offer. So anyways, here we go. Today, instead of continuing where we had been in the last couple of weeks, I had been, and I always do what I'm inspired to do every day. There's never any preparation for this. I usually find out in the shower what I'm going to talk about. And I love following that kind of guidance. But anyways, we have been listening to messages from chapter 18. Chapter 18 in the text, the title of it is The Passing of the Dream. So the last two conversations that I have offered are from the passing of the dream. Now, we're not going to focus on that one today. Today, we're going to go to chapter 16. But let me just say this about chapter 18, the passing of the dream. When I got to that chapter in the beginning of my journey with the course, and I started, I believe the first time that I read the course was either, I got to go back and look at my notes, either December 2010. No, it was December 2011. And then 2012 is when I started reading the course every day. And it just became the commitment that I had made to stay totally and completely aligned with the teachings of the course. And I knew when I got to this chapter 18, that said the passing of the dream, I knew Jesus was teaching us how to navigate the very decade that we are in now. The passing of the dream is where humanity as a collective is being given an opportunity to ascend or to repeat, just like grades in school. Those who learn the lessons about the truth of who we are going to graduate. There are so many teachers. There's actually a channel, Channels Jesus, and it was one of the first teachers that I listened to because he was channeling A Course in Miracles, and Paul Tuttle is the name of the channel. And Jesus, through Paul, calls himself Raj. And Raj, again, it's Jesus, teaches about the course. Now, this was going on about 30 some odd years ago. So some of the audio is really hard to hear because it was very poor quality audio. And some of the websites where they held some of those teachings, I can't find them anymore. So I don't know really what might have happened to, I think that Paul's still around. Every now and again, I get an email, where he's looking for donations to keep his ministry going. But I don't listen to Raj anymore. I listen to other teachers. And of course, I share those with my students. Anyways, when I was listening to Raj 20 some odd years ago, I was listening to the message very clearly, and we were being prepared. A Course in Miracles was given to us to prepare us for what is coming. Now, this was back then. Then I began to listen to the teachings of Cryon, channeled by, Lee Carroll. And I started listening to Cryon about 15 years ago. And actually, Raj was about 15 years ago. It's about the time that I started reading A Course in Miracles. And Cryon was stating that we were headed towards a big shift. And then I began to listen to other channels, and I was hearing the same message everywhere. Everybody was talking about the shift, the ascension, different names, but basically the same thing. And I was receiving my own guidance from Jesus. And as I was going through my own process with my divorce with my husband, Ken, and going through the experience that I went through with my son when he was going through his drug adventure, I was being told you are being prepared so that you can help others during the ascension process. And at that time, I wasn't thinking about ascension. I've got a child who's doing drugs that I didn't know if he was going to live from one day to the next. I'm going through a divorce from the love of my life. My life is getting turned upside down. I didn't care. I was not focused on what I was going to be helping other people do in the decade 2020. I was in 2014 trying to survive the hardest year of my life, the year that I went through a divorce from Ken, and the last year of my son's drug journey, which was really challenging, but that was also his last year doing drugs. So 2014 was bittersweet. I celebrated my son getting off of drugs, and I celebrated the release of my marriage. But I knew, okay, Jesus, you want me to really dive deep into the Course in Miracles, because if I'm supposed to be a teacher for others, I better be a damn good student. And that's when I could feel this real transition happening within me, where the shift about burying my head in the sand, being so spiritual that I was too spiritual to pay attention to politics, I began to realize, oh my goodness, that's something that the spiritual community does. It gets all spiritualized and all right wing and all liberal, and then it wants everybody to do that. And if they don't, we judge from that place. I did when I was supporting Bernie Sanders. I was very, very much in that place of, this is the right way. We got to save the planet. We got to save things. We got to do this, that, and the other. But I wasn't getting my hands dirty in politics. Then 2016 came around, and we had that election with Donald Trump. And although I did not vote for him, and I would not vote for the Democratic Party, because I realized that there was incredible corruption going on. Based on what I saw that they did to Bernie, I voted for the Green Party, for Jill Stein. And I made a decision, well, not by myself, I did it with Jesus, that I needed to dive deep into politics, because as within, so without. Those that we give authority to on the outside is being given authority from a place within myself. So as within, so without. And as I was diving deeper into A Course in Miracles, and I began to read chapter 18, the passing of the dream, I realized, oh my goodness, the corruption in the outer world is a reflection of the corruption in my inner world. I really need to pay attention to what is happening, because everybody that operates in this planet has the same choice that we all have. We listen to the ego or we listen to God. If we listen to God, we operate from the greater good for all. If we listen to the God of love, if we listen to the ego, we're listening to a God of fear. We're listening to a God that's punitive. We are listening to a God that many even in churches today promote this God of getting stuff and manifestation, and like the Joel, what's his name? Joel, I can't remember his name. But anyways, so I was noticing that if we were listening to the ego and we're coming from fear, a God of fear, it validated things like war, things like hierarchy, things like superiorness. And I realized that's not the God of love that I'm learning about, that I'm learning to listen to and follow and trust. So Course in Miracles began to help me really understand that the work that we're doing inside is so that we, those who choose to listen to the voice of the Holy Spirit, the voice for God, we become the pillars of light that are going to illuminate the path for those who are going to cross the bridge from the 3D world, the old ways of the ego, to the new earth. In Course in Miracles even talks about that. Course in Miracles calls it, we create a happy dream. We create a dream where all of us get to experience life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness equally, because we were created equal. When I began to understand that that is what God was Jesus was attempting to teach us so that we could align with God's will for us, I realized, well, where have I heard that before? And I went, oh my gosh, it's in our Constitution. The American Constitution was inspired. I had this beautiful connection with Jesus, and Jesus made it really clear to me. Not everything about the Constitution was inspired, but many things within it were inspired. And the receivers of the message wrote it exactly as they received it. And one of the most important things that our founding fathers wrote is that all men, and Jesus said, we said men because that generation used the word men, but it was really all humans are created equal, endowed by our Creator with the same inalienable rights to life, meaning we are eternal beings. We need to learn that we are eternal, so we drop the fear of death. Because when you drop the fear of death, you're less controllable. You're very difficult to control. You honor your desires because you're willing to die for the truth in your own freedom. So we have to learn about that we're eternal life. 2, liberty. We were created with free will. We freely have given our power to others. And then we wonder, what happened to me? Well, that's because we don't understand who we are. And 3, happiness, pursue happiness. Course in Miracles says that is the one purpose God gave us. The purpose, our purpose is to be happy. You can only be happy if you're fearless, pursuing your God-given freedom, pursuing being free to do the thing that excites you, the thing that stimulates you, the thing that inspires you, that which you do that emerges from within will always, without a doubt, be in service to the greater good for all when you know that you are the light of the world. When we know the truth of who we are, we cannot act selfishly because there is a knowingness that we belong to one another. There is a knowingness that we follow intuitive guidance and we end up in collaborative opportunities, collaborative relationships. So today, because this is the week of love, I was told not to continue on chapter 18. So I guess we'll either go to chapter 18 next week. I don't know where we'll go next week. We'll go where I'm guided to go. But today I was told that we needed to go to chapter 16. It's called The Forgiveness of Illusions. And we're going to go in chapter 16 to section number 6. Let me get a little sticky. Where did my stickies go? So I have to always find something to mark. There's one in here to mark my place up here because God starts talking to me and I forget where I'm at on the board. Anyways, or in the book, the forgiveness of illusion is really, truly, I would say, the essence of the Course in Miracles. Yes, it's a course in mind training. Our mind is being trained to think with God, to think truth, to know truth, and to operate from love and for the greater good of all. So that is what the course's primary teaching is about. But the main thing that it wants us to accomplish once our mind is trained is to learn to forgive the illusion. The illusion is nothing more, and this is so important that everybody understands. The illusion is the mistake in our mind that the outer world is real. Now, let me say that I went through a real challenging time, and I was telling Jesus, what the heck are you talking about? You're telling me that my coffee cup is not real? My kids are not real? You know, the grocery store is not real? So I went through my period of immature questioning and immature, going back and telling Jesus, listen, dude, you got this wrong. Well, that was my ego, very righteous, very, I know what the truth is. I know what reality is. Well, because my ego hadn't been broken open yet. I was still very much in my spiritualized ego. So when I began to understand what illusion means, everything changed for me. Illusion means that I am believing something to be true that is not. So when I believe that the government has power over me, I thought that was true. That is real. Jesus was saying, no, that's an illusion. They don't have power over you. You give them power over you, but they don't inherently have it, because government is just made up of people that either listen to their ego or listen to God. And if they listen to their ego, they think they have power over you, because when we listen to the ego, we believe in hierarchy, another illusion. You cannot have hierarchy. That is false when we're all created equal. So I began to go, oh my gosh, okay, that makes sense. So my worldview began to shift dramatically. When I was questioning like the medical world, because I made a decision. As I was going deeper into the Course in Miracles, I read the Course. I was taking every word that the Course said as truth. And anything that was opposite to that was the illusion. Course in Miracles tells me that I can heal myself. And the world's telling me that I got to go to a doctor to get healed, that I got to take pills to get healed. So I made a decision at that time. I had gone through what the world calls menopause, and I made a decision. I am not going to participate in all those things that I hear are so negative about menopause. I will not fill my mind with that information. I did not read anything about it. And I made a decision. I'm going to follow what the Course is telling me. If I want to have a healthy body moving through this stage of my life, then I will do that. Mind you, I was seeing a doctor at the time, my gynecologist, a specialist in hormone replacement therapy. And when I went to see her and I started getting these hormone treatments, I was feeling so much better. And when I got to the Course in Miracles and read many, many times that only I can heal my body, that healing happens at the level of the mind, I said, you know what, today I'm going to quit doing those hormones, and I am not going to feel a change. I'm not going to go backwards to where I was before I took them. I'm going to stay totally, completely, exactly where I had been. But I made a decision. See, in 2012, I made a decision that I was going to trust what the Course said was true, and I was not going to argue with it. I was only going to apply it. That was what changed my life. Then, of course, understanding what illusion meant. So if Jesus tells me that my body can be healed, because I am the consciousness, I am the intelligence that God created that creates my reality. I didn't want to just, as I had done before, say, I create my reality, but only the good stuff. Well, who the heck put this negative things in my way? Who put this divorce in my way? Who put, it was always somebody else's fault. And when I made that commitment, I'm accepting full responsibility for everything. I took responsibility for my well-being. Now, are there days that I sometimes get sick? And it has happened a couple of times since then, probably 3 or 4 times I've gotten sick. I have a naturopath that I go to who uses kinesiology, and I go to her because I trust that she is testing my body, that she is accessing aspects within me that for that particular moment, I can't access myself for my own healing. So I trust her because I know that she definitely practices to do no harm. So I made the decision that I was going to do just completely trust God for my personal healing. When I began to then question, why do so many people, including I had done this, had given so much power to the medical establishment, I went down a rabbit hole. Mind you, this was back in like I quit the hormone replacement maybe 2013. So around that time, 10 years ago, I went down the rabbit hole and began to understand how the medical world, the medical system, the education system, so many things, the big medical colleges, the regular doctors, the pharmaceutical world, all of them operate basically from one head down. Decisions are being made. And you know what I discovered? They put profit over people. And now there's nothing wrong with making a profit. But this is what helped me really understand what Jesus said. You can only have one master, God or money. And I began to realize I really need to understand how the ego works in me, because if I understand how the ego works in me, then I will understand how the ego works in other people. And some of you, quite a few of you that have been in my classes, some of you for a very long time, you know that that's mostly what I teach, how the ego gets formed, the belief systems of the ego, and what it is that we are to do to look at it, to transcend it, to override it, so that we can align with the truth of the voice of God inside of us. So when I saw in the Course in Miracles that I needed to forgive the illusion of separation, it's not true that we're separate, we're all one. I needed to forgive the illusion of authority outside of me. There's no authority outside of me. All authority is within me. I can give the outside power if I want to, but only because I gave it to them. They never had it over me. So I absolutely realized that I needed to forgive myself for having forgotten who I am. And that is what I love helping to teach others. We all forgot that we're powerful creators, and we have been bamboozled into living lives of quiet desperation, lives where we don't realize how powerful we are. And for today, what Jesus wanted me to focus on is section number 6 inside of chapter 16. Section number 6 is titled The Bridge to the Real World. So the world of illusion is giving power outside and thinking they have it. The bridge to the real world is realizing that God created this planet. This planet is alive. It's consciousness, just as you and I are. God created the earth. We created the world with our ego. We created the political systems, the medical systems, the education system, the religious systems, the systems of hierarchy of rulers and kings and queens. God didn't create kings and queens. There were self-appointed people who took positions of power. And because these have been hand-me-down beliefs, we haven't questioned them. So we have thought that we are under rulership. But that is an illusion. We've never been under rulership of anybody else without our agreement to be part of that. Basically, we said, yeah, you have power over me. I give you power over me. Because we were unconscious, generation after generation after generation, they did not tell us the truth of who we are. We are conveniently, religion is just as filled with loving things, true things, as it is with controlling things, with ego, spiritualized ego. The ego that seeks to control, that tells anybody God is outside of them, that's not the voice of the Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit calls us inside and calls all of us within ourselves to find the same exact source. The churches, depending on the different religion, send us out there somewhere. It's you got to go to the Pope to go to the cloud if you want to find it through Catholicism. You've got to go, bow down and worship a certain direction of the world if you're going to find it through different ways of doing it. You've got to beat yourself, flatulate yourself if you're going to find it through certain groups. So when I began to realize, so humans that listen to the ego can have positions of power just as much as humans who listen to God can take on positions of power. But here's the difference. Someone who listens to God and takes on a position of power will do service for the greater good of all, because they know that to do unto other what they would like to do unto them is what they operate from. People, humans who listen to their ego and go on to have positions of power, do for themselves what they don't think anybody will do for them, so they make sure that they take care of number one. The world today that all of these teachings have been preparing us for is to utilize this decade, the decade of 2020. Notice those numbers, 2020 is the decade for us to begin to see clearly. If you want clear vision, if you want to come in and see with the eyes of the soul, you must begin to look more deeply to what is happening in the outer world, because it is a projection of what goes on in your inner world. If you need other people to approve of you, if you need other people to keep you safe, if you need other people to make you happy, if you need other people to make you well, you are projecting power outside of yourself. And it's an illusion. It's made up. You're making it up. They don't have it. They do not have the power to make you sick. They do not have the power to make you well. However, we have made collective agreements that that is what is happening. So we believe that we make each other sick. We believe we have flu seasons or COVID seasons and we catch it from one another. When I read in A Course in Miracles what it taught about medicine, about shots, about pills, about eyeglasses, I began to take a really close look to how our minds are conditioned to believe that our bodies decay at certain times and we need certain medicine and we need certain protocols and we need certain things. I remember when I turned 40 and it's when I turned 50. I was already well entrenched in my journey because I started this journey at 41, 20 years ago. It's amazing. I was told maybe around 45, oh, when you get to 50, you got to go do a colonoscopy. You're going to have to do that yearly. And I was early on in my journey realizing, well, if Jesus healed, a leopard and told Lazarus to get up from the dead, then maybe I can make sure that I don't have these things that I don't want. Just because my mom had cancer doesn't mean I'm going to get it. I studied under Dr. Bruce Lipton. The book, The Biology of Belief, opened up my eyes to that. We do not inherit illnesses unless we agree by our consciousness to be a carrier of that, because we create the experience that we want to have. So I knew, well, I'm not going to go out there and tell my friends that this is what I think, because most of them are going to think I'm crazy, because I still cared a little bit about what other people thought, until I got to 50. And I'm being told, well, you got to go get your colonoscopy. And my friends, I had other friends getting their colonoscopies. One of them, I even took her to get her colonoscopy. And I decided, nope, I'm not going to do that. Till this day, at 61, I'm not going to go get a colonoscopy. I don't need somebody telling me that there's something wrong with me, because I am not giving my power away to somebody telling me that, because I am listening to the guidance that is within inside me. Again, I made a decision, and this is what the Course invites all of us to do. You either trust that the curriculum is true, or you don't. If you don't, it's okay, but don't try to rewrite it, because you cannot change what God has decreed as true. You can only take it or leave it. I decided I trust that it is true, and I'm going to take it and apply it, which is why my life has just, the peace that I experience, the joy within myself, the freedom, the fearlessness that I live my life with is absolutely amazing. I wouldn't give it away for all the bazillions of dollars in the world, because the peace of mind that I have really, truly passes all understanding. It is not possible to explain this to somebody else. You have to want to experience it. And one of the ways that we begin to experience that peace is when you understand here, the bridge to the real world. Paragraph number 1 says, the search for the special relationship is the sign that you equate your ego, that you equate with the ego and not with God. What that means is that we have to understand what special relationships are. The ego, on the one hand, is all about specialness. God, on the other hand, is all about equality. So as we create our charts, and at some point, I'm going to, now that I'm in my new space here in Colorado, I'm going to have a chart printed so that you guys can see what I used to always draw on the board, that everything has to be looked at in 2 columns. God says we're equal, no hierarchies. Ego says that we're different, we're separate, and we are special. There's a special king and queen, and then there is the special bad king and queen. So there's a good one and the bad one. There's the special rich person, and there's the special not rich person. The ego separates everything into hierarchy, haves, have-nots, good, bad, right, wrong. So when you consider special relationships, you are listening to the voice for the ego. When you are looking at a person as a lover to fulfill you, thank you to Jerry Maguire when they came up with an illusion, a made-up lie, a made-up story that you complete me, we gave power away to the lover. So I experienced some suffering when my marriage was breaking down, because who am I going to be without this husband? How am I going to be happy without this husband? Thankfully, I had enough training before I met him to understand that if I am suffering because somebody leaves me, then I don't really know who I am. So I was starting to question what's going on in this relationship. Why am I feeling that because things are not working out, that that's diminishing me? Well, that's when the Course in Miracles came into my life. A few years after I married Ken, I began to study the Course, and I began to realize what special relationships were. I had made him, well, we met as equals. We connected with a bond that was absolutely the most beautiful experience I've ever had with any other human from that love experience like that. Very different from my children and my girlfriends, where we have a very special love, but this was a bond between two people who was also intimate. I've never had an intimate relationship with anybody else, except for, the men in my life. And so this bond that felt like equals in the beginning, little by little began to turn into a special relationship, where he was the one who thought that he had the money and provided for me, and I needed to be the submissive one and just do whatever he wanted me to do because he was the one paying for the bills. And I thought, how did I get into this position? I came into this marriage as an equal. I had my own business, my own center, the Center for Awareness. We met because he came to my business. He came to my workshops. What happened? Well, little by little, I began to buy into the idea that somebody wanted to take care of me. Somebody wanted to provide. And I started giving up some of the other ways that I provided my own financial sustenance, because at the same time, I had a son going through drugs, and I had a husband who said, let me help you stay home so you can take care of your son. And that was quite appealing. I had two sons at home at the time. My daughter was already grown and gone. So I little by little was trusting this man, all the while my ego's making him special. Oh, you must really love me. You want to take care of me financially. You want to provide. You want to do all these things. And then what happened is the relationship, because it became egoic, turned into special hate. Special love first, he loves me, but then the special hate started creeping in, because now he's going, well, why are you spending so much time with your son? You're home, you should be with me. Why are you still coaching some of your clients? I told you that I would provide everything. Now you've got a class in the house, and these women are in the house. Natalia, you were in one of those classes where my husband wasn't too thrilled that I had these women in the house when he's providing for the house. And all of a sudden, I realized he's giving to get. And it activated fears inside of me that, oh my God, if I don't do what he wants me to do, I'm going to lose my house. It was actually my house. It was really my house. He moved into my house. And I'm going to have to go get a job. I'm going to have to go work and either increase my business. I wasn't going to open up another center. That took a lot to get that going. And I didn't want to put that much time into starting another center when I had my son in the middle of a drug adventure. So when I was reading this, The Bridge to the Real World, I knew I want to live in the real world. I let my mind slip into egoic thinking when I let this man give to me. And then I became stuck in the false safety that he was providing. What I should have done, if I would have been in the love space, I would have said, sweetie, thank you so much for everything that you've provided. I'm only accepting if it's unconditional. But if you're placing any conditions on it, I'm not going to accept it. I'll keep doing my own thing, because I want us to just have a loving relationship. I do not want to have a manipulative relationship. We started off unconditionally loving each other, and then the conditions got piled on. Had I seen that from the beginning, it would have been probably a different experience, but I had not studied the Course in Miracles. So the bridge to the real world, you better understand what the ego does with relationships. Sentence number 2 says, for the special relationship has value only to the ego. When he started listening to the voice of the ego and he went into protection mode, what was he protecting? Profit over people. He was protecting his money over our love. Instead of recognizing, oh my goodness, I'm using money to manipulate this beloved wife of mine, and recognize that he had to admit 2 things. Neither one would he admit. To be able to transcend the ego, you've got to get clear. Number 1, you've got to admit that you are telling a lie, or you have to admit that you are participating in a made-up story with the ego, which is also a lie. So bottom line, it always goes to you're believing a lie. So when I would ask him, can you tell me, are you financially in a tough spot that paying for some of these things is not feasible? I'm happy to contribute financially. I was happy to do that when we came together. I provided for myself and my kids just fine before we met. I can do that again, but I need you to tell me the truth. And of course, it was like, no, I've got plenty of money. And he did. He actually made a lot of money. So, but when I asked him that question, I didn't know there was something happening with his company that I wasn't aware of. So I wanted him to come clean. Well, of course, the ego was not going to admit that there was anything wrong. But so it's like, no, everything is fine. And maybe there wasn't anything wrong. Then the next thing that I asked him to do when he would say to me, that he didn't like me spending money on my children. And I said, well, actually, I still worked a little bit. I paid for everything for my kids. I began, this was crazy. When I would go to the grocery store, I would pay for the food that Ken and I ate with our debit card from his bank account that he had added me to. And for my children, I would pay for it with the money that I was still making, the coaching and the classes that I gave. So every time I went to the grocery store, I had 2 bills. I had my boys, and then I had mine and Ken's. It was crazy. And when Ken would say, how can I trust you that you're not using my money to pay for things for your boys? And I would say, well, here are the receipts. And he would say, well, that doesn't prove anything. And I went, oh my God, what else can I do to prove anything to this man? So I just realized he's listening to the voice of the ego. He's listening to the voice of fear. He's afraid that I'm paying attention to my sons, and he thinks that he's losing that attention. Instead of realizing I have so much love to give that I can love him and my children equally. But he couldn't open up to how love can be unconditional because he was under the trance of egoic conditions that they were illogical, but he couldn't get out of it because he couldn't admit that he was lying to himself because he was believing the ego. He didn't need to admit he was lying to me, but at least to himself. In sentence number 3 says, to the ego, unless a relationship has special value, it has no meaning, for it perceives all love as special. Well, to him, the value that I had was if he was paying for things, he wanted all of my attention. Because the ego doesn't realize that love is eternal. Love extends. In his mind, because he had 2 previous wives who had cheated on him, who had both taken him for his money, and I was willing to let go of the money. I'm willing to go make my own money and do whatever it is that I needed to do to take the financial stress off of a relationship that I thought was so beautiful to begin with. He felt that my willingness to not take his money meant that I was having an affair with somebody else. Like somebody else is going to be providing me money so that I don't have to keep taking his. It got so crazy. I mean, I was watching the ego spinning a web of lies in this man's head with no proof whatsoever. And it was so amazing because I had become, in his mind, a valuable commodity that he was paying for. See, he didn't have enough self-love to realize that I could love him whether he paid or not. He didn't have that sense of worth as I had that sense of worth that I started losing when I started going into fear around him stopping paying for things. And that's when I had to have a mental reset. And Jesus was telling me, girl, I helped you open up a center and start a whole career teaching spirituality. I did it before, I can do it again. All you need to say is, let's do it. But I didn't want to go do something that big because I wanted to have time with Spencer, who was going through that crazy drug time. So I was caught in the perfect storm at the perfect time of my life so that I could see what happens when we listen to the voice of the ego and we allow what was a love among equals, holy relationship, as the Course calls it, turn into a special relationship that was completely decimated by the ego. So it goes on to say in sentence 4, yet this special love, this special value, yet this cannot be natural, for it is unlike the relationship of God and his Son. And remember, when you listen to the Course, if the word God bothers you, change it to universe, change it to creator, have a word that is comfortable. If you don't like the word son, call yourself daughter. If you're a female, if you don't consider yourself male or female, call yourself being, call yourself, whatever, child instead of son or daughter, whatever. Change the word so you don't miss the meaning. The meaning here is God and its children, creator and its created beings, love each other unconditionally. No conditions are set from the creator to us. So we've got to get comfortable realizing that we do not need to be bought to feel loved. We don't need to pay to feel loved. So let me keep going here. It's unnatural, yet it is unnatural, for it is unlike the relationship of God and his Son, and all relationships that are unlike this one must be unnatural. When there is not unconditional love, then we have entered a special unnatural relationship. However, the world has made it sound like that is normal, like that is natural. For God created love as he would have it be and gave it as it is. Love has no meaning except as its creator defined it by his will. It is impossible to define it otherwise and understand it. In paragraph 2, the first sentence is, love is freedom. When I started reading this and I began to understand, wow, love is freedom. Where did I learn that love was bondage? I learned it when I was a little girl. I had to be a good girl for daddy to be happy with me. I had to do my homework for mom to be happy with me. I had to clean my room for grandmother, my abuelita, because I'm Latin, to take me out and treat me to ice cream. I had to do to get. So from a very young age, I realized, oh, usually my parents, my siblings, my aunts, uncles, grandparents, they were always happy with others when others were behaving in a certain way. When we were not being difficult, they were okay with us. When we were being difficult, they were upset. So it was like, oh, so our behavior changed how they were showing up. And I realized as I was, again, this is at the age that I was reading A Course in Miracles, I started having memories of my childhood began to flood my consciousness because I needed to correct my misperceptions. What was happening? I was forgiving the illusion. I was forgiving the illusion that I thought I controlled other people's behavior. So if I wanted to make you like me, well, I would just, walk a certain way, talk a certain way, look a certain way, and I could get you to like me. And if I did certain things, and which is why I was a people pleaser, then I would get everybody to love me. And when I wasn't pleasing you, I would find out, oh, just because I didn't do this for you, then all of a sudden you don't like me. I had a girlfriend. It was the damnedest thing. what a great lesson it was. I did everything for her. My husband used to say, my God, you spend more time, with your friend than you do sometimes here with your family, or with him specifically, because I would go hang out with my girlfriend after the kids were in bed. And I was constantly doing things for her. Her mother died, and I was there helping with all the preparations. She got divorced. I was there helping her through that trauma. She got remarried. I was helping her plan her wedding. So for about a period of, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, I spent so much time making sure her life was seamless. But when I went through a divorce, my friend was nowhere to be found. She didn't like those messy things. And I realized, wait a second, why aren't you there for me? And I had to get honest. First of all, I was giving to get. If I was feeling upset that I wasn't receiving, I had given conditionally. And I realized that wasn't real love. That was conditional love. That was special love. Now, that relationship had to happen for a reason. We had a past life connection, and I ended up having a spontaneous past life experience where I went into a past life remission, talking to another friend who was a therapist on the phone, and all of a sudden I went, wow, my friend Carrie was the energetic karma that I was healing from something that happened in the past. And I needed to see what it was like to give to get, because in that past life, I had been the one that was receiving and not giving. So in this lifetime, it got corrected. And I realized, that's what special is all about. So then when I am studying the Course in Miracles, then I realized that love that is not defined by God's will is not real love. It's special love. Then I needed to find out, well, what does God will for me? And I went back to studying the Course in Miracles, and it took me right back to the simple, basic teachings, not even teachings, the simple, basic things that are in the U.S. Constitution. We're equal. Nobody should be special. We're all equal. We should all be serving for the greater good of all. We should all be serving to help one another. Number 2, we're eternal beings. We shouldn't be operating from fear. So if my husband wants to pull the money away, okay, take it. I'm an eternal being. I can figure it out. I am powered by God itself. The essence of God is the essence of life. It's the intelligence that creates everything. I can tap into that. Why am I afraid of him going away? Liberty. I have total freedom. I have the freedom to stay here and put up with that and say, you know what? Okay, I'll go ahead and just ignore my children and let you take care of me, and I'll live in the lap of luxury. I could have created that life for me, but that didn't feel like the life that I wanted. The life that felt natural to me was to not have to make choices between people that I love. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to love you all. You can take your money and you can go. If you are that scared about your money, then you can go somewhere else. So we did a divorce, and I made sure that I wanted nothing, put it right there in the divorce agreement that I wanted absolutely nothing, so that he would know I didn't come with you for your money. So love is freedom. Then I took that a step further. If our purpose is to be happy, why are there so many unhappy people in the world, in so many unhappy relationships? And I began to realize it's because we've been conditioned. We've been conditioned to believe, as my parents did, because I watched them have special relationships. I watched my dad have an affair. I watched how they manipulated one another. And then I went, so did my grandparents. So did my aunts and uncles. So did I had an older half brother. He was like 15 years older than me. And I watched all this dysfunction. I went, where does that come from? And I realized we have not been taught about real love because religion has not taught us about the love of God, the real love that God has for its children, unconditional love that expects nothing. We have been conditioned into love that gives to get. Valentine's Day. Do you know how many people give to get? They give one of the partners. Oh, Sandy, it's okay. one of the partners will buy flowers or candy so they can get lucky, or so that they don't get yelled at because they came home with empty-handed. We have so many people that feel so totally, completely miserable on Valentine's Day because they don't have a Valentine. They don't have somebody to love them. Well, where's your self-love? Where's the love of God in you activated? Why are you not tapping into that unending well of love that would make you feel like $1,000,000, like a gazillion bucks, make you feel so absolutely amazing about who you are because you would know who you are? Well, we have been conditioned in so many ways, in the education system. Authorities outside of us. A teacher knows better than we do. Sorry. In the education system, the teacher knows better than we do. At home, father knows better than we do, or mother knows better than we do. We even had a TV show back in the 70s, I think it was, Father Knows Best. The government thinks that they know better than we do. The medical system thinks that they know better than we do. The boss thinks that they know better than we do. That is special love. That is the kind of relationships the ego has forged that has us see ourselves as unequal, one having power over the other. That's why it says in here, that kind of, for the special relationship, has value only to the ego. You are important to me as a spouse based on what I get. You are important to me as an employee based on what I get. You're important to me as a boss based on the money that I get. Okay, excuse me a second. Sorry, my office mate next door must have brought a little puppy because I heard a little yelp, and then mine started singing along with it. So you're going to stay there and you're going to stay quiet. Okay. So funny. But anyhow, so as I began to look at the world of politics, I began to realize that we have created a special relationship with the government. We need the government to take care of us. We need the government because we've been trained into believing, like a monarchy, they know better than we do. So as I began to question my involvement in the outer world, specifically with politics, I began to realize that I need to become the change I want to see in the world. I need to become somebody who is so confident, who is totally and completely aware that I and my Father, Mother, God are one, that I am an eternal being. I have eternal life. I don't have to be afraid of any other human on this planet. Why? Because we're all equal brothers and sisters. So when I found my strength and reclaim my courage to let Ken know, you know what, if it's best for you to find your peace, not being afraid that you are spending your money on me, I release you, brother. Why? Because love is freedom. I freed you to take your money, go somewhere else and find your peace because you clearly can't find it here in this dynamic. But I still love you no matter what. With my children, I love you dearly. Your life is your life. If you want to use drugs and you end up taking your life because of these drugs, I love you no matter what, as the creator of your reality that you are. I am not going to, for 1 second, ever blame you for me losing my joy, because my joy is given to me by God, not by my children being alive or not by a husband wanting to be with me or not by the government deciding what I should do or not do. My freedom was established by God. And if God is love and love is freedom, I need to love myself enough to set all beings free from being responsible for making me happy, keeping me safe, making me well, or having me feel like I have value or am important. All of that must come from me knowing who I am. And the only way I can know who I am is to know where God is within. The kingdom of heaven is within. Jesus gave us a Course in Miracles to help correct the misperceptions that have been utilized by religion to teach a false truth, to teach an illusion that God is outside of us, that Jesus was the only Son of God, as opposed to all of us are equal children of the Creator, that Jesus was the only one who could be one with the Father, as opposed to all of us are one with the Father because we're all made of the same energy. We all are powered by the same source. So that was the transmission for today. Jesus really wants you to get that in order for us to be on that bridge to the real world, to co-create a new earth, you've got to come inside, forgive the illusion of separation, forgive your misperceptions of who you are, claim the truth of who you are, because when you come inside and you ground yourself and you build your house on a solid foundation of truth, you will not be shaken from your core. Marriages may come and go, governments may topple, may come and go, medical systems may come and go, medications that are mandated may come and go. You will stay grounded knowing the truth of who you are. I only do what I am intuitively guided to do. If God tells me to get a vaccine, I'll get it. If God says don't, I don't. And I don't care who attempts to tell me that I should get it. I don't care what punishment they might have. If I am told not to do something by an inner source that leaves me feeling peaceful, that's the source that I'm going to listen to, because I do not have authorities outside of me. The only authority is within me. And those who know me, who've known me for a very long time, know that I live my life doing unto others as I would like them to do unto me. I treat everybody with kindness, with gentleness, with respect, because I know that they are my brother and sister in Christ. That to me was absolutely imperative when I began to really feel a shift with my son. When I shifted from being mother and he's my son and operating in that hierarchy that I knew best and saw him as my equal brother, things began to change. When I began to see my brothers and sisters that are heads of corporations that choose to listen to the voice of their ego and prefer profits over people, I realized, okay, you can do that if you want to, but I'm not going to play that game with you, and I'm not afraid of you. When I saw my brothers and sisters who serve in politics and have positions of power, who sold out to special interests for money, I realized you can do that, but I'm not afraid of you. And just because you make up a law doesn't mean I'm going to follow it, because I am not under human laws. I am under God's laws. And whatever consequence come to me, like they came to Jesus, I'm okay with that, because I am going to stand for the truth that I know is true for me. Now, if my teachings resonate with somebody who would like to have that level of integrity in their lives, then by all means, what I share, I will help you find that same place within you, because we all have it. I found it. I can share how I found my way to my truth. If this sounds too radical, maybe you might still have fears. Maybe you don't want to end up in jail, or you don't want to end up on the other side, the other side of the law. I don't care. To me, it doesn't matter, because if that's where I'm supposed to go to live by my conviction, then that's what is supposed to happen. That comes from knowing that love set me free. God's love created me, set me free to live my life from love. And if loving my fellow man, loving all of them and trusting that they're equal and not seeing a single one of them as having more power over me, if that bothers them, then you know what? I can deal with those consequences. I'm okay with that. But I will not tolerate in myself dealing with the consequence of not trusting the truth that has set me free. That I cannot do. And that's the only thing I actually have power over, is to align with God's will for me, God's will that I know what love means, or to block God's will and do my ego's will, which is, you know what, God, let me do what the government says because I'm scared. I want them to protect me. I don't need the protection from anybody. I've got God's protection. I'm an eternal being. I know eternal life. All right. So if this was something that you enjoyed, share it with others if you think that they might enjoy this as well. If you want more, go to my YouTube channel at Laina Orlando. There's lots of stuff there. Or go to my website, lainaorlando.com, and you can keep up with some of the things that I offer. I just went through a big transition, moving from Georgia to Colorado. I'm still trying to settle in, still have to decorate my office. I love beautiful things. So this will be beautiful at some point. It's beautiful the way that it is, but I want pretty stuff, surround myself with pretty things, because I can, because I make my own money and I can do it. I don't have to ask Ken for permission. So anyways, if you enjoy how I teach and what I teach and my heart, by all means, tell others about it. You know, let's create a movement. I really feel that it is my role to help co-create a happy dream for all who want to play in that frequency where we treat each other as equals first and foremost, so that we can then be trusting of each other because we're transparent. We tell the truth to one another. From that place, we co-create a new earth. It doesn't get any better than that. The rest is just fighting and arguing and trying to get ahead and haves and have-nots and who's going to win, who's going to lose. That's boring. I've been there, done that. I did that for 40 some odd years of my life. I don't like that. Don't want to do that game anymore. I want to play in the fun and easy way with people who want to own the truth of who they are and are willing to forgive the illusions that we thought was true. And now we come together in a whole new way, in a whole new vibe. And it is where love has set us free to be ourselves, so we can collaborate from that place. All right, unmute yourselves if you've got any comments or did you get any nuggets? Do you have any questions? Do you want to share anything? Unmute yourself and please share that with me. Hey, Sarah.
Well, I just want to, hi. You know, so interesting. I'm listening to your story. My life has been very different, and yet there's underneath, there's so much that I can relate to. And I just turned 80. I'm very immature for my age, by the way. And I just started, I'm only on lesson 155. My life is totally, I wouldn't say totally, but greatly changed. And it's interesting because I had as much psychotherapy as Woody Allen. And it didn't do anything. I was treading water.
Yeah.
So I started the course last, I guess, 155 days ago or however long. And it's amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm not that far along, but you know, it's just your whole perception of the universe and everything. I mean, I believe in quantum physics and all that, but when you can apply it, it's a whole different trip. So, and I also enjoyed what you said because I'm also, you know, Bernie Sanders person who voted green.
Oh, how funny.
So, you know, I totally get that. But I've been thinking lately about Dr. King, who was an enlightened person, as far as I'm concerned, even though he wasn't perfect. That's the great thing.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. And Gandhi also said at the end, if I had done the right thing, I would have had people look into themselves first.
Yeah. 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 You know, same here. Course in Miracles taught me that we are not here to become perfect. We're here to recognize that perfection already exists. God already created us perfect. We are catching up to that perfection, and it may take many more lifetimes before we have ascended to that level of awareness. But in the meantime, we are here to just live our lives as loving creatures, as beings who, as Jesus gave us the golden rule, do unto others as you want them do unto you. And there are too many people who do to others exactly what they would not want anybody doing to them, and they find themselves righteous about that. You know, when I look at war, when I look at governments who fund wars, how can do that to others? But you wouldn't want them to do that to you. We wouldn't want any of those people to come and bomb us and tear our country, tear our homelands, destroy what we have, our infrastructures. We wouldn't want that. Why are we doing that? Well, because exactly what Gandhi said, we haven't looked into ourselves enough to be honest about who we are, to understand who we are, to understand that peace comes from a peaceful place inside, not from bombing somebody else into being peaceful, into behaving so that they don't bother us anymore. Because when I attack another, well, egos, the way the ego operates is through karma. And if I attack you, you're going to attack me. That's just the way the world of duality, the world of back and forth, the world of like the situation with my girlfriend is you're living out the karma, cause and effect.
Yeah.
Course in Miracles says we can stop that if we align with the fact that we are loving beings and behave lovingly towards one another. We don't have karma anymore. We will have the effect of a beautiful world, but a beautiful world where people collaborate. You're not really learning lessons. You're just doing what feels good, and you just keep doing more of what feels good. Well, we have a beautiful, happy dream. That world is possible. Those groups are forming.
All right.
I'm seeing that happening, people collaborating and co-creating. So at 80, you're watching some amazing things. You know, at 61, I think I've seen a lot, but you've seen more. And I can assure you, there are so many people, because I'm getting the messages now, people who are finding my lessons, Course in Miracles lessons, and they're telling me these lessons are changing their lives, and it's happening fast. People are shifting quickly and realizing, oh my God, there is another way. And here in these beautiful teachings given to us by the consciousness that we all have access to through A Course in Miracles, we can learn the steps on how to transcend our ego. When we no longer listen to our ego, we're not going to be bamboozled by the egos of others. Thank you so much, Sarah, for your comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? And if not, we'll just wrap up today's transmission. Thank you so much for being here. So just unmute yourself if you want to share anything. I'm watching.
Not you.
Thank you, Laina.
Hello, Miss Natalia. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here, sweetie. Well, you all have a wonderful rest of your day. We'll see you next week. Same time.
Ciao.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Sweetie.